Today I'm going to explain a little bit more about our JagWrite session and show you what we are going to do in the session. So those of you who have missed it, you have this video to kind of guide you along. I'm going to talk about paper one and how um, this session can help us understand better what we're supposed to do and how we're supposed to do it. So that's kind of the fun part. So the first thing is, if you don't have a copy of your paper one assignment sheet, you might want to pause me and go look that up, just so you have it to kind of go by. And then I've also posted a PowerPoint with kind of the overview and stuff in that, so that could be helpful as well, but that's up to you. Okay, I hope you already know that paper one is called Taking Sides in an Argument. And what I've done is give you four sets of articles to read, basically 4 topics with 2 articles that don't agree with each other in that particular set. And so a couple of them are pros and cons. A couple of them are this is good, but something else is better kind of thing. So anyway, we're going to walk through those. The paper, taking sides in an argument. When we take sides in an argument, we often show our own biases and prejudice and our understanding of political stuff and our compassion for certain ideas and lack thereof. And that's all good. It shows us kind of what we already know we believe, and that's a good thing. And so what we're trying to do here is to kind of mesh critical thinking, especially the first 4 chapters, with this idea of articles by experts still need to be evaluated to see if they're worth being accepted. Okay, so the main assignment for this unit is a 3-page evaluation of your response to the sides of an argument. So you pick your topic, you read both articles. I have you write summaries of each article so I know that you've got the right idea, kind of going down the right street at the time. And then we're going to do a little bit more of the examples and such together. So we'll have fun with that, I hope. This evaluation has grading criteria, sometimes known as a rubric, and it's going to give you kind of a map to how to put this paper together and what I expect to see from you in this paper. And so you're going to have an introduction that sets it up. Okay, what's the topic? What's your overall analysis? Remember, this is not a murder mystery. You're not spoiling the ending. This is kind of what we do in academics to write a paper. So tell me what you're doing, and put your overall assessment, your thesis, at the end of that first paragraph. And then your summaries that you wrote previously get to be part of the paper. And then you're going to give me an analysis of both articles. One you're going to say is more successful than the other, and then you're going to explain why. Okay, so in our critical thinking, we know that paper one is, again, designed to help you practice what we're learning in Unit 1. And so we have 3 main foci, okay, focuses, foci, whatever. And this is not the only way to evaluate an article. There are lots of different ways depending upon your assignment, depending upon what you're trying to get at, where you're publishing, all that kind of fun stuff. But the 3 we're going to look at is evidence, experts, and tone. Okay, and so evidence, we know from our Power of Critical Thinking book, that is something that makes a statement more likely to be true. Okay, and an expert is someone who is more knowledgeable in a particular subject area or field than most others are. Now, tone is something that Dr. Vaughn gets at in various ways, but he doesn't come out and say, this is what tone is. So I'm using a definition from a writing handbook. Go figure. A tone is an author's attitude towards the subject, the audience, and or the opposition. Okay, so it also covers how the authors deal with those who disagree with them. Okay, their use of counter arguments. That's part of tone. Okay, so we're going to walk through those three areas so you have a better idea of what that is and how we do it. And I have a little bit of a cold, so I'm going to drink my tea. Okay, evidence, which we know is something that makes a statement more likely to be true. So what counts as evidence? What can we use to back up basically our ideas? Usually counts things like numbers, statistics, percentages, ratios. They all have their problems, but they all can be used very specifically in a paper to help us understand just how widespread something is or what we have to do to improve things, different things that have happened in the past, how that's worked, that kind of thing. We also use charts and graphs. We also use quotations from experts in this particular field. And that's something that we have to be very careful of when we're doing evaluations, is that we're staying in the same field that the paper is written in. We can't expect somebody who is a chemist to write a paper on, I don't know, astrophysics, okay? So you have to be careful that what you're using to evaluate their evidence on actually applies in that field. Okay. Thankfully, most of the things we've chosen in the articles are kind of less esoteric than astrophysics. So what counts? Numbers, charts and graphs, quotations from experts in this particular field. What this particular author uses in this particular article. So maybe they don't use any numbers. That's okay. Maybe they don't have any charts or graphs, but they have lots and lots of quotations from experts. That's okay. Some articles will have visuals, some articles will have other things in them. So what this particular author uses in this particular article is what I'm asking you to evaluate. So how well do they use evidence? Okay, and what does it work? How heavily cited is the article? And by that I mean, if you look at, I'm not asking you to do this, but if you look at how many citations they have in total versus how many pages they have, then you get kind of a citations per page. And you know, when we're writing research papers or writing these analysis papers, we're hoping that you're giving us about 2, maybe 3 per page. But that's not the same as, because you're a student writing about something as opposed to an expert writing a paper for other experts. Okay, so theirs might be heavier, lighter, just depends. Is that evidence thoughtful? Basically, does it fit where they put it? Is it thorough? Do all of their main ideas get back up from experts and evidence? Okay. How reliable are these pieces? If it's something that you've never heard of, you might want to go look it up. You know, get into the library, look up things. You can use, in this case, you can use things like Wikipedia and Google, because they're going to have a lot of stuff on anybody, right? You can put my name in there, you're going to get stuff. That's really scary sometimes. So the last thing is, how well does the author meet, actually 2 things. How well does the author meet our expectations? Okay. Why is it important for an article to meet the expectations of the audience? Well, okay, so we go looking for research for a research paper, and the article that we find, the title looks great. Okay, we know that this person who wrote it is, you know, an expert in the field, and then it does things that we weren't expecting. Okay, I have a funny example. I used to read a lot of Stephen King. I read everything he wrote up until It. I read about a third of that and decided, okay, I'm done with this particular mess. But anyway, Stephen King writes horror books. Most of them have been turned into movies. But anyway, he wrote a book called The Eyes of the Dragon, and I assumed it was going to be another horror book. No, it's a fantasy book about dragons. And he wrote it for his daughter, really, because she couldn't handle reading anything that he wrote. she was like 12 at the time. And so he wrote this book so she could read one of his books. It's very good. It's just not a horror book. So in that same idea of how well does the author meet our expectations, if they use something else as evidence, something besides numbers and charts and graphs and quotations, how well does that work? Is it something that we would still consider evidence? Is it something that shouldn't be there? That kind of thing. Okay. And I'm thinking about ones that have anecdotes. Okay. And really what they're saying is these people have experience in this area, but they're not considered experts. But we're going to listen to them because it makes sense to do so. Okay. If it doesn't make sense to do so, then that's, a ding in their part. Make sure in that area, especially, that you check your own biases. Okay. So we all have things that we prefer in a range of areas. And so even in reading a particular article, we might kind of put some of our own biases in there and we go, oh, this is awful. This doesn't make any sense. When really, we just don't understand it. It's a difference. Okay. Okay. Going on to experts. We know how to tell a true expert from chapter 4. There's lots and lots of stuff in there. A true expert, of course, has education and credentials from a reputable institution. Their credibility is in this particular field that we're reading the article about. They have a history of making good answers, making good decisions, giving good advice. They have recognition from others in their field, and they have professional accomplishments. Any 2 or 3 of those makes somebody reliable. A dubious expert gets paid by special interest groups. Okay. Makes errors in basic facts, does not support their answers, does not treat opposing views respectfully or fairly. There's a fairly lengthy list that adds to this on page 126 in our textbook. Okay, last thing, tone. The author's attitude towards the topic or subject. Do they treat the issue as important and worthy of study? And you might think, because I used to think this too, why would they write the article if they don't think it's worthy of study? Well, sometimes people write things to kind of push it aside. It's like, do you see all this stuff? This doesn't matter. Is that what they're doing in this article, or are they actually treating things with respect? Do they remember that they are only one voice in the conversation about this topic? That can be problematic these days. A lot of people believe that they are the only one who has the real truth. And when you run into something like that, you have to be careful of believing completely what they say. It's one of those apportion your belief to the evidence kind of things. Okay. Tone is also the author's attitude towards the audience or readers, listeners, viewers, whatever way you're getting this article. Do they treat us with respect? Do they talk to us like we can understand the article and the pieces that they do, or are they patting us on the head? And you'll know because nobody likes to be patted on the head. This is bad. And so they have possibilities there that they're not really, it's not a good tone. The last piece is the author's attitude towards the opposition. And this is important because in any field, in any idea, there are people that are adamantly for, adamantly against, and then a whole bunch of people in the middle that are in varying degrees for or against. And so they have to treat those that disagree with respect. Okay. Do they cover their concerns? Do they say, oh, I know a lot of people say this, but here's why either it's wrong or it doesn't matter in this context. Okay. So they've got options there of what they can do. But we're going to have some hands-on stuff here in a little bit that is talking about how do we evaluate an article. And we're going to be using kind of a cute article on cats and their companions kind of thing. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you have questions, send me an email. You know how to get a hold of me.